I'm Dr. Sandler. The program is Stan, the History Man. Today I want to talk about some of the myths of the Great Depression. As you know, it started, well, actually it started in 1929, the stock market crash, but it really gathered speed 1930, 1931, 32. And Herbert Hoover was just voted out because pretty much the voting follows the economic indicators. But what I wanted to talk about was, for example, what got me thinking about this was an article, not an article, but a program on NPR on the Roosevelts, the Franklin Roosevelt family. Well, as opposed to Teddy Roosevelt, the Republican Roosevelts and the Democratic Roosevelts. And they said Roosevelt, lifted us out of the Great Depression. Well, he didn't. What he did, the way I put it, he made us feel better about it, okay? Because unemployment was still like 14% as late as 1939. The only thing that lifted us out of the Great Depression was World War II. Even before we got into the war, of course, there were Allied war orders and so on. And so like people like my father went to work for about the first time working with a company that made stainless steel. For the great truck, the 6x6 truck that the armies used for years and years, that was a French contract. But anyway, so I said he made us feel good about it. It was a lot of propaganda, a lot of, and I'm saying that not necessarily derogatory, a lot of publicity, tremendous amount of publicity of how we're on the move, or moving forward. And the 1936 election, Roosevelt was triumphantly reelected. But here's the thing: a lot of people don't talk about this. Right after his reelection, he attempted to pack the Supreme Court and was slapped right down about it. So he's beginning to lose popularity by 1937. And then also more by 1937, even more importantly, was the fact that we had a recession. A recession went inside a depression. Now they say it was more sharp and acute than the 1920 crash, 29 crash. Now it doesn't mean it was, I mean, in a sense, it was from a lower beginning, so you go even further. And it was even more precipitous than the 1929 crash. But again, you don't read an awful lot about that. And so there really is not just a steady upward progress. Now things got better. I mean, you don't have the catastrophic unemployment of 1932, 1933, but it was as late as 1939 when the war orders are coming in. There's still 14%. Another thing that was, I don't think, so great about pulling us out of the depression was in 1935, the Social Security Act was passed. So that's a great thing, Social Security. That surely must have helped people getting those checks from the government. Except they didn't get them until 1940, by which time the depression was practically over. What happened was the act took money out of the economy. People were paying their Social Security taxes from 1935 to 1940 and weren't getting anything back until 1940. Another thing, a long-term problem here, would be that when they passed the act in 1935, there were something like 29 workers for every retiree, because most retirees would die off about the age of 65, so that's when that was the cutoff point. Well, today it's like 2.5 workers to every retiree, and it's getting worse. And that's not just the United States; that's every country. But a lot of these things were started during the Depression. Now, to be positive, on the other side, the Civilian Conservation Corps was magnificent. Even rock-ribbed Republicans can't say much against the CCC. That was an organization, a government project in which young men could go to work, digging forest trails, just kind of outdoor pick and shovel work. And they got paid $15 a month for this, $7.50 which went to their folks back home. So they had about $7.50 for a month's hard labor for toothpaste and shoelaces and so on. But what they got was something that people didn't have that much in the Great Depression, was a roof over your head and good food. And the Army ran the CCC. And they had good Army chow, as it were. But it was, and the thing that gets me also was that they never had to advertise for it. They said, join the CCC and see the outdoors. No, people the word got out there. Yeah, the CCC is paying. You have a roof over your head, good food, and so they had pretty much all the volunteers they wanted, and it went right through all from 1933 to 1942. Did a lot of good work. They built hostels. They built fire breaks. All kind of. They planted something like 1 million trees in the Midwest. That's the Great Dust Bowl. 1934, 1935, Kansas, Oklahoma seemed to blow away. So what they did was go in there and start planting trees, which are, basically still around. So there's almost nothing you can say against the CCC, even no matter how much you don't like Roosevelt or whatever. No, the CCC was a really great thing that they did. So I think but that's the one thing that is, I think, maybe non-controversial about the CCC, about the New Deal and the Great Depression. Other than that, it was the government became much more involved in civilian life. They even had maybe the closest thing to fascism, the NRA, National Recovery Administration, which all businesses had to join. And they told them how much you can charge, not keeping prices down, keeping prices up. A lot of people don't realize the Depression was an era of depression in money. A dollar in 1932 was worth $2.50. So there was too much low prices here. We got to get so in trying to inflate the economy. So anyway, that was a few my thoughts on the Great Depression. I was sort of born at the tail end of it, so I was too young for the Great Depression, too young for World War II, as a matter of fact. Anyway, that's the program. Stan the History Man. Thanks for listening.